Hello everyone. Before we begin, if you enjoy this story and would like to see more content from this individual, check out the description below. She has an Instagram as well as a Twitch, and yours truly may be on some of her live streams. Well, more so Matthew than me. In any case, I hope you enjoy today's story. Let's delve into the dark together.
Friday evening came and went like it always does. Nothing ever changes. This life is boring. I dragged my feet through the empty halls of the decrepit apartment complex, touched the same doorknob I do every day, and slowly opened the unlocked door to my room to expose the same faded floral couch. The same boring black cat I didn't bother to name. The same leaking faucet. The glaze in my eyes grows darker every day. I flip on the lamp sitting on the oak wood end table I found behind the dumpster last week. I make my way into the kitchen where the food is half rotten and the other half is stale and expired. I grab an apple from the counter, but it's squishy on one side. I toss it near the trash. I make my way over and open the fridge where the smell from my leftover meats hit me in the face. I grab a beer and quickly shut the door. I notice the cat sitting in the corner of the room, sleeping on top of a worn-out pillow I meant to throw out months ago. That's when I heard a faint knock at the door. No one ever visits me. My mother passed away a few years back, and the rest of my family doesn't care about me. Who could it be? I went to the door and opened it enough that the chain lock still had some slack, but not to my surprise. No one was at the door. It must have been next door, I thought. As I make my way back to the dust-covered living room, I hear another knock. But this time it sounded closer. I roll my eyes and go back to the door, opening it once again. No one. I let out a sigh, finishing my beer in one gulp and tossing it at the trash can, but I missed. Oh well. I drag my feet to the bathroom door and let my oversized t-shirt fall to the floor with the other countless shirts as I make my way to the shower. I strip down the rest of the way and step over the pile of clothes on the floor. My head snaps to the side as I hear another booming knock at the door that echoes through the apartment. I decide to ignore it this time as I climb into the shower. I turn the knob as hot as it'll go and sit in the bottom of the tub. The water is only lukewarm against my abnormally cold skin. I hear the cat meowing outside the door, but it seems off somehow, like he has a sore throat. He's probably just hungry. I wash my body and hair with what little watered-down body wash I had left. I lay my head on the cold tub walls and listen to the sound of the water hitting the curtain until the water is ice cold. I reach for the knob to turn the water off, but stop abruptly as I hear a loud knock. But this knock was at the bathroom door. Impulsively, I say aloud, "Who's there?" Nothing once again. A shiver runs down my spine, but I quickly shrug my shoulders and roll my eyes. I don't know why I keep that cat around. He isn't very friendly, but he keeps me company, I guess. I reach for the frayed, unwashed towel and sleepily dry off my long black hair and wrap the towel around my chest. I make my way through the dark apartment and plop down on the soft mattress on the floor. The cat comes trotting in and lets out a deep meow. "Fine," I said. I roll out of bed begrudgingly and flip on the dim, flickering overhead light. The cat stops and licks his paw. I panic suddenly as I see something drip off his claws and hit the carpet. My heart beats loudly as he puts his paw down, and it leaves a very distinct red print in the carpet. I rush over and grab him. He struggles to get away and starts nipping at my wrist as a warning. I hold him tightly and inspect his paw thoroughly, yet there are no visible wounds. I sigh in relief and let him go quickly. The cat looks at me and lets out a little hiss. He must have just caught a mouse. I take a few deep breaths and manage to calm down before I get up and start moving towards the hallway to go get something to drink and see if the cat needs food. But my thoughts were interrupted suddenly as I hear a loud knocking at my closet door. It was hard enough that I watched the hinges on the door rattle from the inside. This time, I can't ignore it. Who's there? I jumped to my feet and threw the door open hard enough it slammed against the wall. I could feel my adrenaline rushing through me as I moved the clothes on the rack, expecting to see a person, but no one was there. I closed the door and rested my head against it for a moment. I could feel the adrenaline start wearing off as I stared blankly at the cream-colored paint. I could have sworn I saw the door move. I sigh lightly and close the closet door. How long has it been since I've slept properly? Staying up for 2 days can't be good for me. I slowly step around the piles of things all over the floor and take a deep breath. When I go to the kitchen, I cast a gaze over to make sure the cat has food and water before I grab a kitchen towel and walk back into the bedroom to clean up the mess, and notice that the bloodstains aren't there. I close my eyes and let out a deep sigh. I toss the towel into the overflowing laundry basket and throw myself onto the bed and shove my head into my stained pillow. Finally, I get to sleep. As my body gets heavier, the dreary days are lost and filled with dreams of a life I'll never have. The next morning, I pry my eyes open and let out a long yawn. My days off are always so boring. Just me and the cat sitting in the dingy living room contemplating whether today is the day I end it all. A little light shines in through the tattered curtain and a slight winter breeze is present through the cracked glass in the window. I sit up and stretch my arms out and lean my head over and see my closet door is open. I sit and stare at it for a while before I reach for the closest and the least dirty shirt to cover my exposed chest. As I pull my shirt over my head, I feel fur touch my side, startling me slightly. I hadn't even noticed he had come to sit by me. I pulled my arm through and reached my hand down to pet the cat. He headbutts my hand and snuggles into it. I stop for a second. He never let me pet him much before, and has never snuggled with me. He looks up at me and lets out a small meow. I smile and reach down to continue petting him. I feel a light tingle in my chest. His fur is soft under my hand. It's actually a nice change of pace. I stretch again and get out of bed after a few minutes. I head to the kitchen to get a beer, with the cat following closely behind, which is odd. He usually keeps his distance. Maybe he's finally gotten used to me. I found him a couple of months back, starving and skittish while I was dumpster diving. I earned his trust slowly over time by bringing him scraps of food that I found, but he never was too friendly. When I first brought him home, he was pretty beat up. He made it clear we were not friends. I'd wake up every now and then with him lying at my feet, but never too close. I leaned down to test my theory that he finally knew I wasn't going to hurt him. He happily let me pet him once again. My heart skipped a little. I smiled as he started to purr. It sounded like a low, happy growl. I opened the broken cabinet in the kitchen and pulled out a can of Tuna Delight cat food. That was one of his favorite meals. I pried open the can and set it on the floor beside the other half-eaten cans. He just stared at it blankly. I tilted my head and asked out loud, "Not hungry yet?" The cat looked up at me and tilted his head back at me. What a weird cat. I started picking up the crusted-over cans for the first time since I'd brought him home. Perhaps these disgusting cans scattered around are unappetizing. I went to the trash with both arms full and took a step back. I hadn't taken out the trash in months. I sat them down on the floor beside the trash can and went back to see if I could find a trash bag under the sink. I rummaged through the cleaning products and eventually find a large black trash bag with red ties. I go over to where I set the cans and pick them up one by one and place them into the bag. I gather up as many bags as I can carry and head out the front door. The apartment hallway is dusty and stale. I shake my head and try not to sneeze when the musty mildew stench hits my sinuses. The carpet probably hasn't ever been cleaned. No one ever comes down this hall. Sometimes I'm convinced I'm the only one who ever lives here. I stumble down the crumbling stairs to the dumpster and struggle to put the bags in. As I put the last bag in, I breathe a sigh of relief and head back up the stairs to my godforsaken apartment. When I open the door, the cat was waiting for me. I reach down and give his head a scratch. He follows me as I go lounge on the couch, and he happily jumps onto my lap. A small grin creeps across my face, and I give him a loose hug. I look down at his face. His ears are a little lopsided. He has a little scar across his nose I hadn't noticed before. His eyes are a bright green, and he has a little white diamond in the middle of his forehead. I had never been able to hold him before, so I never even noticed he had white on him at all. My thoughts came to a screeching halt as a very loud knock at the front door caused my heart to stop. The cat doesn't move from my lap. I sit in silence for a few more seconds before another knock echoes through. I start to stand up, but the cat doesn't budge. I cringe slightly as I push him off my lap. I make my way to the door hesitantly, as another knock makes my heart drop. Pressing my shaking body against the door, I brought my eye up to the peephole. There was no one there. My heart was in my stomach. My whole body was shaking so hard I could barely stand. I tried to take a deep breath, but it felt like my lungs would explode at any minute. I didn't have a chance to regain my composure before I heard a rustling sound coming from my bedroom. Tears started to fill my eyes. Dread filled my entire body. Sheepishly, I tiptoed through the room and peered inside. There was nothing in there out of the ordinary. I turned the light timidly. I could feel my heart in my throat. There was nothing there. I slid down the wall to the floor and put my head in my knees. I've been alone for so long. It's been years since I've even had a friend. Maybe I'm finally losing it. I let out a small chuckle, and tears came flowing down my flushed cheeks. I hadn't eaten or had any beer today. I'm probably still halfway asleep. I sniffled and slowly stood up. Looking around one last time, I spotted the cat. He was just sitting in the hallway, watching me. I shook my head so my hair covered my tear-stained cheeks, and stepped over the mounds of overworn clothes mixed with trash. I made my way to the kitchen and pulled out a beer. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I popped the top and sat on the couch. I threw my head back. My eyes stung and my body was heavy. The cat hopped upon the couch and stared at me as my vision started to fade. I am suddenly jolted awake by a booming thundering through my apartment. I threw my arms out to brace myself for an intruder, but with just my luck, I only managed to spill the beer I had in my hand all over my bare legs and already dirty shirt. I faintly hear rain pattering outside of the window. My eyes wander around, adjusting to the dimly lit apartment. The cat is sitting on the cushion next to me, unbothered by the whole scene. just looking at me. I reached out cautiously, and he happily nudges me with his forehead. I scratch his head and under his chin before I get up and let out a huge sigh. No intruder, just the thunder from the rain. I didn't even get to finish my beer, and now it's all over the place. I stumble through the disaster, trying not to fall. I barely make it to the bathroom door and throw my shirt into the darkness. I guess I'll go back to sleep. No use in doing much more. I wasted the day away. I started heading towards my room as I felt the cat behind me nipping and rubbing against my leg. He must need some more food. I flipped on the small light in the hallway so I wouldn't trip. As I rounded the corner to the kitchen, I notice his food is untouched. I gave him a sideways look, which he does the same back at me. I grabbed another can. Salmon pâté. Hope you like this one. I shrugged and sat it down on the floor. I pause for a minute as the cat doesn't move. That's the last one I have. Sorry. I make the long walk to my bedroom and plop onto my mattress. I close my eyes and shove my face into my pillow once again. I slowly fade off to sleep as I hear the pitter-patter of little feet. Not too long after, I feel a small, warm body lay to my left. I smile a bit. Sleep comes a little easier than before. As I'm walking through the forest, the breeze is cool on my face. My hair is fluttering in the wind, and I am at peace. I touch the bark on the nearest tree and breathe in the musky smell of decaying trees. I lift my head and put my hand up to the sunset and smile. A hand touches my shoulder, and I jump. I pull my hands up and stumble backwards. A shadowy figure reaches its hands out towards my throat. I try to scream, but it's too late. I feel myself losing breath. The hands strangling me are too strong to break free. I try to drop to the ground, but I'm lifted off my feet. My eyes start to roll back, and I am completely unable to breathe. Again, the one time I'm happy, something always goes wrong. I throw my hands out violently for one last attempt to keep my dismal existence. I open my eyes, sweating and panicked. I can't breathe. I try to sit up, but I'm pinned. I frantically throw my hands around and hit something on top of my chest. I feel claws digging into my throat. I lose focus for a second as the room starts to spin. I try to scream, but I can't even manage to squeak. I roll my eyes forward to see two green eyes staring down at me. I can't move. I can't breathe. The cat is pressing its paws on my throat. Adrenaline surges through my body all at once as I realize this could be the end. I manage to barely get enough strength to my arms to shove him off my throat. I throw myself upward, grabbing my bleeding neck, and start to cry. The pain is so intense. Blood is dripping down my hands onto the floor from the puncture wounds from his claws. I shove my face into my bloody hands and sob. A few moments later, the cat rubs his face against my leg, and it purrs. I barely look up at him before my eyes widen in terror, as it seems the cat is laughing at me. His fangs are hanging out from his mouth as if to grin at me. I scramble backwards. Get away from me. My back slams against the wall, one hand gripping my throat, one hand thrown out in front of me to keep some distance between me and the cat. My breathing is labored. I can't focus. My body is in so much pain. My lungs sting and my heart could burst at any moment. The panic takes over as the cat takes another step closer, and I just scream. Stay away. The cat stops and purrs at me before turning away and disappearing into the darkness. I stumble as I try and get up and stagger to the bathroom. I flip on the lights to a horrific scene in the mirror. My eyes were dark and sunken in. My neck had multiple claw marks dripping blood. I slam my hand into the mirror and sob. What just happened? I tend to my injuries quickly, scurry to my bedroom, and slam the door. I climb over my mattress and curled up in the corner with my legs tucked into my chest. I wasn't going to sleep this time. There's no way I can sleep. My body is in pain. My mind is a mess. My heart is going to give up any minute now. I laid in silence for what felt like forever. Before I knew it, exhaustion had taken over, and my body couldn't keep itself awake any longer. The day came and went. I stayed huddled in my room. I couldn't bring myself to face the cat. I could hear him pacing around the hallway, but I wasn't going to budge. I started cleaning little by little, just to keep myself busy, so I wouldn't think about the hunger I felt. I couldn't avoid him forever, but I wasn't ready to face him. I still couldn't understand what happened. Am I going crazy? A cat couldn't have really tried to kill me, right? I sighed. I must really be insane. I reached up to the band-aids on my neck and cringed. I made my way to the door and put my hand on the doorknob lightly. Fear ran through me as I started to turn it slightly. I froze. No way, I thought. No way, I said. Was it trying to lure me out? No, maybe someone is here this time. I turned the handle and ran through the apartment and threw the front door open. Who's there? I screamed. My voice was hoarse, so it came out more as a half-hearted plea instead. No one was there. I screamed again into the hall. Why? Why is this happening? I slammed the door and turned around, where a shadowy figure was standing in the hallway. I stood still and watched it dart into my bedroom. I slid my hand along the wall and flipped on the light. The cat was lying on the couch, sleeping. Then, what was that? I slowly walked towards my bedroom, too shocked to even think straight. I stumbled around the corner. I flipped the light on in my bedroom. Nothing. I let out a slight laugh as my eyes started to fill with tears. I am insane. I grabbed my chest and tried to hold back the sadness as I went to the kitchen and pulled out a beer. The hunger had gone away. I was filled with complete terror and absolute sadness. As I popped open the can, the cat came up to me, happily, nudging at my ankles and purring. I hung my head down and let my hand lazily fall to pet him. He met my hand with his head. I'm losing it, aren't I? I said. I took a sip of my beer, but the fear made me want to throw it up. I threw the can at the trash. Maybe I can eat to ease the pain from the hunger, at least. I opened the cabinet and grabbed a can of tuna and a fork. I walked over to the couch and plopped down. The cat was right behind me. I had forgot to check if he'd eaten yet. As I opened the can, I heard him purr. I reached my fork out to give him a bite, but he turned away. I don't want to eat it either, I said. As I put the fork into my mouth, I felt a little relief for the first time. I finished the last bite and tossed the can next to me. I laid my head on the back of the couch for a moment. I guess I'll go back to cleaning. I pulled myself up and went to the bathroom. As I continued to pick up the things scattered all over the floor, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I felt like I was being watched, which I was. The cat was just sitting on my mattress, staring at me. But that wasn't what I was feeling. Something else was watching me. I shook my head and continued to clean. As I made my way to the back corner, a smell hit my nose that I couldn't even describe. My whole body told me to get away. I went to the laundry basket and wrapped a shirt over my nose and went back. The cat meowed at me and jumped off the bed. He got in between my legs and wouldn't stop. "What? You smell that too? Smells like something died." I pushed the cat away from my foot and began to pick up the clothes. If something smelled that bad and I didn't notice, it was time for me to finally get myself together. I picked up my band shirt and felt something cold and wet on my hands. I dropped the shirt and looked at my hand in horror. It was blood. There was no mistaking it. I frantically dug through the clothes to see what the hell had been bleeding. In the background, the cat wouldn't shut up. He kept meowing deeper and deeper. As I reached the bottom, I couldn't take it. I grabbed the shirt on my face and threw it off. I started sobbing. My heart sank even more as I sheepishly picked up the arm of my cat. I knew it was his paw because he had a scar on his paw pad that was there when I rescued him. But how? His body was torn apart, and pieces of him were obviously eaten. There was blood covering the floor, and the smell of long-gone death burned my nostrils. The only part of him that wasn't riddled with huge bite marks was this single paw. I held it to my chest and sobbed. I didn't understand anything. How could my cat be gone? I stopped sobbing. My eyes widened, and I slowly turned to make eye contact with the cat behind me. That wasn't my cat. I was frozen with fear. If the body of my cat is here, how could he be staring at me? I wanted to run, but I couldn't. I wanted to scream, but it wouldn't come out. All at once, I remembered the first time I had heard that sound. The day this cat was bleeding. But there were no injuries. The way he was lapping up the blood, and the way he never ate any food I opened for him. I jolted up and tried to run, the knocking giving me a moment of clarity. But would that be enough? I tried to get out, but I knew it was too late. I passed the cat and glanced at him as I tried to run out of the bedroom. He was smiling at me again. His body was rapidly growing and changing. I snapped my head forward and kept running. I ran as fast as I could, but as soon as I passed the threshold of the door, a hand grabbed my ankle. As I fell to the floor, I turned and swung my fist into the floor where the hand should be, but my own hand slammed onto the floor. My body hit the floor hard. My chest crashed on the hardwood floor, and my head was thrown backwards. The wind was knocked out of me. The panic made it even harder to catch my breath. I could feel the hand grasping my ankle get tighter. I lifted my arms and started grasping anything around me. My hand hit the door frame. Pain shot through my arm as I grabbed the door frame. My knuckles were severely swollen and purple. I pulled hard at the frame and screamed. I knew no one was coming, but I hoped for the first time in my life that someone cared about me. Tears fell from my eyes uncontrollably as I screamed, the pain in my chest radiating deeper than the bruising I got from being pulled down. I kicked out my legs to no avail. My legs didn't touch another living thing. I heard a deep laughter, and my heart stopped. I couldn't even lift my head to see what was grabbing hold of me. Suddenly, I felt my body give up. The pain was too much for me to bear. I stopped fighting and just stopped moving. I'd wanted to die for so long, and now it is finally here. The day I've been contemplating doing myself has come at last. So why am I fighting? I lift my chin slightly as I see a dark figure looming above me. A clash of lightning lights up the figure from behind. It was me. I couldn't help but smile. What kind of poetic justice is this? The figure leans in and breathed on my face. Its hands clutched my throat aggressively. I could feel my own hands around my throat, digging my nails into my flesh. I couldn't fight, even if I wanted to. Every ounce of strength was gone. Tears just kept flowing as I faded out of consciousness. My suffering will end soon. So why do I keep crying?